Welcome to Health Styles Market. I'm Arlys and I'm the owner. Today we're going to do video 5 in our highly sensitive person series. And what I want to mention is that maybe it seems boring to be talking about two little children. Little Arthur is a highly sensitive child. His older sister Catherine is not. Doesn't mean she's insensitive. She's just not highly sensitive. What I've found through the years is that it's often easier for adults to hear it in the context of children rather than adults. But at the end of session number 6, I am going to bring up some things that are common coping skills that adults have developed. As you remember, in the beginning of this series of the highly sensitive person, we talked about this is something we're born with and we live with it all of our lives. And the more we accept it on every level, whatever it means for us, and then we adapt. And so we create routines and things that work for us that help us to be less hypersensitive, help us to be less stressed, help us to have less difficulty in situations that maybe we could be very uncomfortable or try to avoid. There's ways to kind of assess those and plan and prepare so we can be less tense, less stressed, less overwhelmed, less negative reactions, even if it's just feelings inside. Those are coping skills. And so for a lot of people, this is a subject that's easier for them to listen to, ponder, think, evaluate, and even look at themselves, which is where the real change and the real help happens. And it just is easier to hear it in the terms of children. So if you remember the last time we filmed, Arthur was struggling. He was struggling because Dad was in charge of the meal and he was making baked potatoes with cheese and he wasn't serving it the way Arthur needed it to be. So from that, we can tell that Mom has paid attention. It's not competing Dad and Mom, or men and women, or dads and moms. It's just simply that Mom had paid attention, or maybe Arthur felt more comfortable to speak up and ask Mom for what he needed and wanted. Highly sensitive people commonly have a texture issue, taste, smell, anything, of course, that assaults the senses can be a problem for them. And so Arthur was struggling with the baked potato. He was hungry. Dad had kind of forced him to sit in the chair that was next to the fish tank. And so that was affecting Arthur's stomach and sense of smell and his appetite. And so this Dad was left feeling like he just has a fussy little boy. He's just fussy. And in a little child, they may not have the language skills or the awareness in order to be their own advocate. So they're struggling, and Arthur was struggling. And as we really find that a lot in highly sensitive children, adults, maybe you would say they're finicky or they're a fussy eater. And what's nice is when they have control over their own food choices and meals and times and textures, and they can make their own decisions about that. So let's talk about highly sensitive people. We're going to go back to Arthur and Catherine and the need to be cautious. So here's a little story about them. Mom takes Arthur and Catherine to the playground, and the moment they arrive, they spot a brand new piece of playground equipment. It's a wooden fort with a shiny silver slide leading out from its highest tower. Catherine? She loves climbing and she races into the play fort. Half a minute later, she appears at the top of the slide and she joyously slithers down it. Arthur watches. He watches his sister slide down. He's still standing beside Mom. He's been taking a little time to take in this new fort and to think about climbing up it. He loves slides. He really loves slides, and a new one is very exciting. But the tower is quite tall, and that requires thinking about. By the time Catherine is at the top of the slide again, Arthur's made his mind up. He climbs up into this fort, makes his way to the top tower. He sits at the top of the slide. He pushes off and slides down to the bottom. Wonderful! He's up at once and clambering back into the fort for another go on the slide. Arthur isn't a coward, but he is cautious. And there's a difference. So highly sensitive children need to connect. If the highly sensitive child lives in a safe, quiet, calm bubble with little stimulation and little interaction with others, they're happy, right? Maybe at first, but not for long. The highly sensitive child is no island. They're very connected to the world because they care. They care deeply, so much that their very little soul aches at times with the depth of the feeling, and they need to care. They cannot turn it off, even if you want them to, and even if they want to. They care about people, they care about animals, they care about injustice, they care about suffering, they care about doing good in the world. Their need to care is one of their core strengths. It's also one of the aspects of their personality that can wear them down. They can care too much. They can struggle to let go of issues they feel passionately about. They also have a need to connect. Catherine and Arthur watch the local television news. They see a story about a car crash in which a child has died. Catherine thinks it's pretty sad, but a moment later she's returned to her coloring and she's wondering what's for dinner. Arthur remains very sad and very anxious. He brings up the crash several times that evening, asking questions about it. Who was the child? How did the crash happen? Where is the child gone now that she's dead? That night, Arthur has a nightmare in which he's watching the crash happen. He cried out, and Mom comes to soothe him. After she's gone back to bed, Arthur lies awake thinking about the crash. He imagines he's the child in the car. He imagines the car crashing. He imagines the pain and the death. And he cries himself back to sleep. A tragedy that has befallen an unknown family feels personal to Arthur. It deeply saddens him. It frightens him. It haunts him. He cannot toughen up. He cannot stop being so sensitive. Arthur cannot help being so affected. Arthur cannot help caring. It is who he is. All Arthur can do is work through his feelings and hope he won't stumble on another terrible news story anytime soon. Highly sensitive people have a need to create. Many highly sensitive children are highly creative in some way. That can mean being interested in the arts, like music or theater, literature, sculpture, painting, architecture, and so on. It can also mean being creative thinkers, like little entrepreneurs, little trendsetters. And now we would add little influencers. Creativity and sensitivity go hand in hand. The highly sensitive child who notices lots and thinks lots and feels deeply has plenty of creative ideas. Their nature opens them up to inspiration. They find that creativity is an excellent outlet. They can work through and express thoughts and feelings through being creative. They connect to certain artworks. They sense that the creators are just like them. They need to find meaning. Many adults try to lead meaningful lives. For the highly sensitive person who thinks and feels deeply, meaning is especially important. Highly sensitive adults are often thinkers, dreamers, creators, entrepreneurs, game changers, even leaders, all because meaning matters to them. Being different, being attuned to subtleties, living intensely, often getting overwhelmed and being driven by powerful needs. These aspects of a highly sensitive person add up to a single realization. Highly sensitive people are different. Often the highly sensitive person knows that they experience the world in a very different way. So let's talk about the difference. Remember Arthur at the jump park party? Arthur doesn't know why he's tearful. He doesn't know why his heart is beginning to pound and he's about ready to pick up some balls and hurl them across the room in a rage. Highly sensitive children are thinkers, but they're little thinkers. Most adults haven't gotten their heads around this trait of highly sensitive, let alone children. This business of being a highly sensitive person is complicated. So the highly sensitive child knows they're different, but they don't know why. It's a safe bet that the child has been trying to make a judgment call of their own difference. We teach kids from an early age to see the world in terms of right or wrong. So they will apply that same thinking to themselves. Are they right to be different, or are they wrong to be different? At the jump park party, all the children, except Arthur, are playing happily. He's aware that he's not feeling and not behaving like the other children. He doesn't think, well, I've got the right approach here. Jump parks are hell, and these other children are crazy not to see that. No. Instead, Arthur thinks, all the other kids are happy here, so why aren't I? And what is wrong with me? Feeling out of step, left out, odd, wrong is not uncommon for Arthur. And it doesn't help that other people judge him as being wrong. How many times has he heard, you're just too soft. You're a baby, a big baby. You're a fraidy cat. You just need to toughen up. Arthur sees his difference in negative terms. He worries that he's not normal. It doesn't occur to him that different is nothing more than different, not right and not wrong. So the highly sensitive child knows that they are different. They don't know why they're different, but they know that being different is somehow a failing. So we want to learn to embrace the difference. And so I'm going to just read this last little bit. What child beyond a certain age finds it easy to stand out in a crowd? All a child wants is to be accepted and loved. Being different creates anxiety that perhaps you're a little less acceptable and so a little less lovable. Only children who get the message that they're loved and accepted as they are can embrace rather than hate their difference. So, what happens for Arthur? Mom finally reads the highly sensitive child book. Hallelujah! At last she understands her son Arthur. She reads up on highly sensitive people and she talks to other parents of highly sensitive children. She decides that her number one mission as a mom is to teach Arthur that who he is at his core is not just absolutely fine, but in fact, it's completely wonderful. Wonderful. With patience and commitment and love and acceptance and a good pinch of humor added in, over time, Arthur develops good self-awareness and good self-esteem. It's not always easy being highly sensitive, but he's learning about his limits and how to feel better when the world gets to be too much. He's more confident in being himself and making the right choices for himself, even when those choices set him apart from his peers. Even better, Arthur has found lots of positives. He's very close to his mom and dad now. They seem to get him a lot more now. They've bought a dog, and he's really enjoying caring for his dog. At school, he's made a best friend who likes looking at books with him and learning facts about animals, and he is developing a real passion for drawing. In fact, he won a prize in the school's art festival. He still squabbles with Catherine, but when sometimes he gets upset and she calls him a crybaby, well, he pokes his tongue out at her between his tears. So that ends session 5, and we will be recording session 6 really quick. We hope you'll join us, and thank you for watching this video on a highly sensitive child, and we'll see you soon at the next one. Thank you. Bye.